Zadok. Kila mtu afanyie kwa ofisi yake. Mm. Mm. Kwa nataka tufanyie butu. Eh? Huko kwenu kuna internet mbaya kweli? Hamia uende ofisi yako ni kama iko kwa ngulai. Internet yako ni kama iko kwa kona. Mm. Sawa. Ama nataka tukae na wewe kwa butu. Sawa, hiyo ndio challenge. Sawa. Hello Mr. Checha. Kila mtu azin? Si hiyo inakwanga by default. Kila mtu. Sasa lakini si nyinyi hamko disabled. Wewe uko disabled? Acha nione. Acha nione. Allow mic. Ndio usipi. Ni Titus. Hiyo tulikubaliana ni Titus. Hata mimi si niko hapa. Lakini wewe si uko enabled. Unataka kuanza kuongea sasa? Eh, Lakini si nimesha ku enable. Si uko enabled. Hata unaweza ongea nisikie. Umemute, unmute. Unmute there.
Oi, sawa. Hello?
Unisikia? Good morning, Mr. Chichi. Hello.
Morning, sir.
Si wewe ndio uko muted hapo. Nakuwa muted. Niambie kama unaona screen yangu, wewe ni share. Chichi. Hello. Chichi. Naweza doc. Oh. Si na ni kupresent ama utapresent? Mhm.
Lawrence, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Let me take this opportunity to, on the interim, to welcome everybody so that we begin. So welcome to the first quarter 2025-2026 financial year engagement with the ATP candidates. So candidates, wherever you are, feel welcomed. Mine is to humbly welcome the Director of Examination, Dr. Felix Odhiambo, to conduct an introduction of the CLE team, give his remarks, and welcome the CEO Council of Legal Education. So, Daktari, kindly karibu.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being on board. My name is Felix Odhiambo. I'm glad to welcome everyone for this first engagement session with the KSL, the 2025 cohort team. We are happy to have this conversation because KSL happens to be an important, most important stakeholder for CLE. My role at this particular point in time is to welcome the CEO, Council of Legal Education, Madam Anna Konuche, our acting CEO, to make her remarks. Madam CEO, karibu. I understand the CEO is involved in another meeting, but she will be joining us in due course. So I want to take this opportunity in the interim to once again welcome all of us on board, especially the KSL team, both the administration as well as the candidates who have logged in to attend this particular session. Please feel most welcome. We don't intend to have this as a very long meeting, a long webinar, because we understand there is so much going on, especially in regard to classes. So while we await Madam Konuche to conclude and join us, may I request that may I take this opportunity to invite the CEO, Kenya School of Law, Director Henry Mutai, if he's on the platform, to make his remarks and introduce the KSL team. Daktari, you're most welcome if you are on board. In case the director is not in, any person in administration, perhaps ATP, assistant director, Madam Otieno. Anyone in administration from the KSL side, please? It seems that may not be the case. May I, at this point in time, probably invite the Students Governing Council leadership. Mr. Samuel Makouya, are you on the platform? Mr. Samuel Makouya? I hope I'm audible or I'm being heard. I hope I'm not speaking to myself. Please, Mr. Makouya, if you are on the platform.
Daktari, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. That is reassuring. I thought I was speaking to myself. The Students Governing Council team, please. It seems they are not on board at the moment. I think for me at this particular point in time, then let me make a few remarks before I invite. Before that, let me invite my colleagues to introduce themselves. So, starting with myself, I'd introduce myself. My name is Felix Odhiambo, Director Examination. May I invite all the CLE team members who are on the platform to please introduce themselves.
My name is Peter Chirchir, the MC for today. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Zado Kamboko from exams.
Thank you so much, Zadok. Next, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Josephat Waidaka, Directorate of Examinations.
Thank you so much, Mr. Waidaka. Next colleague, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Leah Masharia from exam.
Thank you so much, Leah. Karibu.
Good afternoon. My name is Lawrence Njoroge, ICT.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. We are glad to have you. Madam Vicky, I can see you on the platform. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. I'm Victoria from CLE.
Thank you very much, Vicky. Any other person from the CLE side, please? Thank you, team, for the introduction. We are happy to engage during this session. Let me just make a few remarks before I invite my other colleagues to make some short presentations. This is an engagement that we are having, and it is our first engagement, with the first CLE engagement with KSL during this new financial year. And we are happy to host this. Our engagement arises out of the fact of the partnership that we have CLE and KSL have. Always, when we talk of partnership, a partnership is a journey of love and a journey of relationship. So if it's a journey of relationship, I always like to make reference to an author who talks of relationships as being a balance of togetherness and individual space. So we are together, CLE and KSL, but also we have individual spaces to deal with. As partners, we are called upon to maintain our individual identities while also sharing life's joys and burdens. So individual identities, we have the two institutions, separate institutions, which are statutory bodies, CLE on the one hand and KSL on the other hand. But more importantly, both institutions are like conjoined twins. Conjoined twins because they serve essentially the same client. The same client, the ATP student who comes from KSL, is the same ATP student who is served for examination purposes by CLE. And in fact, that same student has the same number both at KSL and at the CLE. The number that the candidate is enrolled with at KSL is the same number that they use for purposes of registration of exams. And therefore that makes us always have the need to always engage so that we can always find a middle ground that enables us as the two relevant institutions to best serve the interests of the candidates whom we serve for purposes of processing them towards the admission as advocates of the High Court of Kenya. So today is therefore one of those opportunities we come to seek to begin our journey of sharing our lives and our joys. So the life phase that we seek to speak to is our life phase as examiners for candidates who are later on, probably in November, November and April, will sit for these exams that we are working towards. So I would like to invite you most sincerely, the candidates, to engage with us so that we can always improve on our service delivery to you and our partnership with KSL, both at the corporate level as well as at the individual level. As we engage, I know one issue that is going to arise a number of times from this conversation, from the levels of petitions that I have seen coming in, is the conversation around the deadline for registration of the November 2025 examination. I wish to confirm to you, candidates, that we have received a petition from the Student Governing Council President, Mr. Samuel Ouya, as well as a host of other students who have written to the council seeking an extension, a bit of extension on the timeline, on the deadline rather, which at the moment is supposed to lapse on 1st of September. So let's not spend a lot of time on that. The only assurance I would like to give you is that your petitions have been received and CLE is giving due consideration to those petitions, and in due course, CLE is going to communicate in regards to those particular applications that are pending, including the petition that has been lodged on your behalf by the president, your president, Mr. Samuel Ouya. So I would like to appeal to us that we don't spend so much time on that. There is going to be a communication in that regard. So thank you so much for listening to me. At this point in time, I would wish to take this opportunity to maybe just before I invite my colleagues to make their presentations, I would like to check if probably Director Dr. Henry Mutai is now on board so that he may make his remarks before we make our presentation. Director, just in case you are on board, please come in so that you make your remarks, please. Looks like maybe the director hasn't joined in the meeting. We shall give him the opportunity to make his remarks, or in his absence, anyone from administration of KSL who may be available will be able to make remarks on behalf of the administration. Perhaps at this point in time, I would like to invite my colleague, Mr. Josephat Waidaka, to take us through a short presentation that would be helpful for purposes of the ongoing registration process. Mr. Waidaka, please.
Thank you, Director. So we have the slides which we are going to project. I'll take you through the registration process. I am aware that most of you have already interacted with the Council's examination portal, so I'll not take a lot of time on that. Lawrence. Okay, thank you. Now we have the first slide there. So the registration process, like I've alluded to earlier, some of you have interacted with it. You're expected to go to the council's website and click that link provided there. Then once you log in, you'll be able to fill in your data. Then after that, there is a section for those who have disability and would require special consideration by council, or any other person who have any other request. There's that provision for them to indicate that. Then the next step is to upload the required documents. We are going to see them in the next slide. Then you're supposed to select the units. Then you pay the examination fee depending on the number of units you have selected and also depending on whether it is regular or illicit. And after that, you are required to submit the application. So in the portal, there's a place where you're supposed to click submit. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So I think I just have to. So you are required to upload a passport photo, and kindly those who have not uploaded their documents, ensure that it has a plain background. Then on the documents, you are supposed to provide the Kenya School of Law, and it should be all the pages. So we have observed that some candidates just take a photo of the first page and they upload it. Then you're supposed to provide the university certificates. Then the university transcripts, you are supposed to provide the final transcripts, not the provisional ones. And you should provide for all the academic years. Then you also supposed to provide the high school certificates, whether it is KCSE or any other. For those who have gone through the A-level system, we propose that you attach both the O-level and A-level certificates as one document. Then after that, you are supposed to attach the national ID, and you should attach both sides of the national ID. So we request that you scan the original documents. So you don't have to photocopy your documents and then photocopy them. So just scan the original documents and in PDF and upload them. Okay. So Rhodes, please let's go to the next slide. So let me continue, and sorry for that. So I've gone through the documents which you are supposed to provide. Then there are those who probably have high school certificates from other qualifications other than NEC. So you're supposed to provide a certificate of equivalence from Kenya National Qualification Authority. Those who have done diploma in law, or those who have also done pre-bar, and even those who have foreign qualifications and have clearance from Kenya School of Law, it should also be provided. So I want to highlight some challenges which candidates get when they are submitting the applications. One, currently, it is where you are not able to submit your application because you do not have funds in your portal or in your account. For such cases, we request that you send the M-Pesa message to the email support@cle.or.ke. So if you have not been able to send your application because of money not reflecting, kindly send the M-Pesa message to that email. The other challenge which may make you not be able to send your application is when you don't use the preferred format, that is PDF. So ensure that your documents are in the right format so that you're able to send them. The next issue which may cause you not to be able to send your documents is where you said, or your documents are having a very large size. So we advise that you ensure that your documents do not exceed 2 MBs. So if they're small enough, you'll be able to send or to upload your documents without any challenge. So let me now speak to the approval process. Approval of applications is a continuous process. So it continues right from the time the registration was opened. But I want to note that it even continues even after the deadline. So candidates should not be worried. I have said it is ongoing and the approval will continue. So I want to mention that once approval is done, you'll get a notification through your email. So if you provided the correct email, you'll be able to get a notification. So there are cases where an application may be rejected and you'll also get an email notification, and that email will also indicate the reason why your application was rejected. I'll mention them, the reasons why your application may be rejected. And I would want you to take note of these issues which I'm going to outline here. The first one is on the KCSE certificate, the high school certificates. There are those who attach a result slip instead of the KCSE certificates. So please note, we require the certificate and not the result slip. If you, for any reason, you do not have your KCSE certificate, liaise with NEC, apply, and NEC will send the statement of your results to CLE. So please don't just upload the result slip because your application will be rejected. The other thing is the photo. Passport photo size. I had stated earlier that it should have a plain background. There are those who attach a selfie. So that one will not be considered as a proper passport. So your application will be rejected. There are also those who attach, if it is the admission letter to Kenya School of Law, there are those who just attach one page or two. So just ensure that all the pages are there and in PDF format, as I said earlier, and that way you'll be able to complete your application. Another reason which will make us reject your application is a failure to provide all the transcripts. If it's the 4-year program, then all the transcripts for the 4 years should be provided. On transcripts, also ensure that you provide the final transcripts, not provisional ones. So if you provide the provisional transcripts, then your application will be rejected. The national ID or passport, for those who are using the passport, ensure that both phases of the national IDs are scanned, and you scan them in PDF. Then you attach that document. Then regarding the documents, there are students who attach incorrect documents. Please note that if you just get any document and you scan it and you say that it is a KCSE certificate or any other document, the system will accept it. So I want to give just 2 examples. There are those who attach the KCP certificate instead of the KCSE. Where you're required to attach the Kenya School of Law admission letter, there are those who attach the university admission letter. So the point I'm trying to emphasize here is ensure that you have labeled your documents correctly and you have attached the correct document. Your application may also be rejected if you also don't provide the Kenya National Qualification Authority equivalence where it is applicable. Then there are those who are supposed to provide the PRIBA diploma certificate, So if you don't provide it, then your application may be rejected. Then I want to conclude by saying that once you have made your application, you're able to confirm the status. And as I said earlier, once you submit, you get an email notification. Once it is approved, you also get a notification. And even if it is declined, you'll also be able to get a notification. And also when you get to the portal, you'll be able to see on that window the status, whether it is pending approval, you'll be able to see that, or if you have completed the process. So finally, like I said earlier, if you have any challenge regarding the uploading of documents or that process, just send an email to support@celi.or.ke. Thank you. That brings me to the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Waidaka, for the very clear and informative presentation regarding registration and all the documents required. I think we can now proceed. Kindly, candidates, if there is any question, you can also post on the chat section. We'll also be taking questions towards the end of the presentation, but in case you would wish to post them, we'll still answer them accordingly. Let me call upon now our ICT Assistant Director to give a brief presentation on some of the common challenges that candidates usually face in this process of registration. So I welcome you, Mr. Lawrence. Kindly make any brief presentation that you may have so that we open for a question and answer session. Kindly welcome. Sorry, I'm reliably told that Zadok is ready, so that later Mr. Lawrence comes in. So, karibu Zadok.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Can you? But it's on.
Zadok, we can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, though you're breaking.
Okay, thank you. I think there's an issue with the internet. Can you hear me now?
Yes, for me, I can hear you.
Okay, so we can continue then. Okay, I will take you through a little bit of the examination process, and I want to pick from where the director left. I think director mentioned on the issue of CLE and KSL as corporate entities that are involved in offering ATP, the program, and the examination. So I want to pick from there that our mandate as Council of Legal Education to offer the ATP examination is provided for under the Legal Education Act. To be specific, that is Section 8. And it's with other mandates. For instance, Council of Legal Education is supposed to set standards and accredit universities and also advise the government of Kenya on matters pertaining legal education. And even apart from that, also has the mandate to license the legal education providers like universities, those who offer the undergraduate program, and also those who offer maybe diploma programs. And apart from that is to supervise legal education providers to ensure that standards are maintained. Now, apart from that, also our mandate also under the same section of the Act is to offer the professional exams, in this case, the advocates training program examination. In that case, then, it's important to note that the entire issue of examination is a CLE thing, but what happens is that the CLE does not work alone, and that's why you will find also that KSL as an agent also acts as an agent of the council when it comes to offering other aspects of the ATP examination. For instance, when it comes to offering the oral examination, when it comes to offering project examination, then council has an agency agreement with KSL, and therefore KSL administers those two aspects of the examination on behalf of the council. But now council exercises oversight over that administration of those components of the examination, just to ensure standardization of standardization and also to ensure the quality in those particular components. Now, what I'll concentrate on is the issue of ATP examination. If we go back to the slide that was there, I'll concentrate much on the ATP examination, being the professional examination that a candidate must pass before admitted to the role of advocates in Kenya. In this case, then, the Act provides that a candidate must score at least a 50% in all the ATP subjects that are on offer. In this case, Council offers examination in 9 ATP units, which most of you are aware of, from ATP 100, which is civil litigation, to the last ATP 108, which is commercial transactions. And in this case, then a student is required to score at least a cumulative of 50% And this includes both a combination of oral project and the final written examination should at least give you 50%. But then for the ATP examination, a student will either score a pass, which is above 50 and above, and a fail. If you score below 50, then you'll score a fail. A student who does not score above 50, that student will have an opportunity to resit that examination. And this resit, students are allowed to resit within a certain period of time, which is allowed by the law. But it's important to note that from the onset, when you resit a paper, you will not benefit from the oral and the project component of the examination. Why? When you sit for the examination for the first time, those components are spent in the first sitting. So when you come in and resit the examination, you will not be benefit from those two components. It's very important that you note that from the onset. It's also important to note that for those students who are not successful, they are allowed to challenge the results through a remarking process. And it's important to note that a remarking process is a process that the council will adopt and bring in a complete new person to come and look at those scripts again, but then apply the scheme as it is to those scripts. Now, it's important from the onset to understand that when students remark their results that may come out are remarks. Number one, as might get 1 or 2 additional marks, depending with the how the remarker applied the marking scheme. A student might retain the score given by the original markers, and also a student may actually the marks may reduce. So you might find, for instance, a student who had scored a 28 out of 60, scoring either a 28, a 27, a 26. So all those options are available when it comes to a remark. But then the function of council when it comes to administering examination, before council administers an exam, the council is supposed to set that examination that involves setters, administer it, mark, process, and release those results, and also maybe administer a remark. Currently, when it comes to administration, council administers exams in 2 series, one series in November and another series most likely in April. But it's important to note that when it comes to be it marking, be it administering the exam, council employs the services of external professionals who must meet certain criteria or certain requirements that council has set. For instance, when it comes to setting, for you want to set an examination, for instance, that person must possess at least the first degree in law, then must possess at least a master's degree and at least 7 years of practice. Now, this is with the exception of maybe ATP 107, which might not require somebody to be in the practice of law, ATP 106, which might not require someone to be in the practice of law because human resource and issues of accounts. When it comes to the moderators, we require them to have at least 10 years of experience. We also require them at least to also have a master's in law and maybe in other areas, and also to have done law And this is also the exception of LPM. Now, for markers, we require at least 5 years of experience, but we still require a master's from the markers to mark the ATP examination. Now, once that has Now, when it comes to the examination structure, the exam that you'll be sitting for in November, the exams are, I know most of us are aware that exams will start on the 13th of November and run through, I think, up to 25th of the same month. Then after that, the exam will proceed to marking. But then the exam structure that we have at the moment, of course, we have the projects and oral examinations. And in this case, for orals, the orals contribute 20%. The orals contribute 20%, the projects contribute 20%. Then the sit-in examination, which is the November exam or the April exam, will contribute at least 60%. This is for a candidate who is sitting for the exams for the first time. But for that candidate who is sitting as a resit, we will take the sit-in examination, which is 60%, and convert it to 100%. So you'll have X out of 60, then times 100 to get a percentage of what is supposed to get in the final. Now, the exam we have, we expect to have structured problems with equations per paper, but this is with the exception of ATP 106, practice management, that has 7 questions. Now, all our papers have one compulsory question that carries 20 marks. One compulsory marks. And for a paper like ATP 106, we'll expect that the paper will have at least 7 questions, and the other questions are divided into 3 sections. So it will have one compulsory question, then the other will be into different sections. Just allow me to share my screen, Yes, Mr. Titus? Just give me a minute. Okay, so for ATP 106, as I had said, it has at least 3 sections. Section 1, which is commercial accounting. It has also a section on office practice, and it also has a question on human resource. It's important to note that as a candidate, you are supposed to do at least question 1, which is a compulsory question, and at least 1 question from each section. That's very important. Now, the experience that I have with this paper is that there are students who will attempt question 1, which is a compulsory question, and attempt maybe office practice, and human resource management, and leave out accounting. So what this student will do, will attempt 2 questions from human resource and 2 questions from office practice, expecting that a marker will mark the compulsory and mark those 4 questions. Now that does not happen. What will happen is you will be marked for question 1, which is compulsory. We will mark 1 question from office, 1 question from human resource management, and because we've not done accounting, you will score a 0 in accounts. But then, because the instructions are that you actually work on the 3rd question from any other section, then we will mark the one, for instance, in office practice, if office practice is in section B. Now, for the other units, it's important also to note that instructions are that you answer the compulsory question and 4 other questions. So it's important for candidates to know that when you answer all questions, nowadays we have a booklet, an exam booklet that contains both questions and where you're supposed to write your answers. So it's important for you to know when you answer all the 6 questions and the instructions are 1 compulsory question and 4 other, what happens is that a marker will not concern themselves with the last question that you have answered. So it's important that you be deliberate on which questions you want us to mark. Now, apart from that, there is a ATP 103, for instance. For ATP 103, even though it has different parts, but it's set like any other paper. But what normally happens is that that paper has legal writing. It also has legal drafting. That's general drafting, like drafting demand letters, depots, and stuff like that. Then it also has legislative and policies and legislative writing generally. So what happens in that particular paper is important for a student to at least revise in all the 3 areas. So, the structure of these papers has been that the compulsory question is supposed to cover at least part of the syllabus. So you'll find that the compulsory question might have writing together with drafting and together with legislative drafting. So that there's a question that you may not be able. So it's important for you to learn those skills and yeah, so it's I hope you can still hear me.
Zadok, we lost you for a moment.
Yes, now it's important for me to address issues, especially when it comes to issues with the, commercial transactions and conveyancing paper. But over the last, I think, 2 years, we've seen, and one of the issues, for instance, for commercial transaction used to be the content, but I think the content has been narrowed down to a few areas in commercial transactions. There are a number of areas that were removed. So the current syllabus that you have
Zadok.
I think
Zadok, you may need to go back again on that.
okay. I think I have a network issue, but let me just set it so that can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So now, I think that historically we've had issues with the performance in commercial transactions and conveyancing. But most of those issues have currently, I think the performance has really improved in those two papers. And it's important for students to understand what is it that is being looked for when we talk about commercial transactions, and what is it that is being looked for in the conveyancing paper. And it's important, for instance, that students differentiate commercial law as it's taught at the university and commercial transactions, because here we are looking at transactions in commercial law, and I believe those transactions are very clear. And if you follow your syllabus properly, you those particular areas. Now, the other thing is the issue of conveyancing. Now, conveyancing, some students, if you look at the answers they give, sometimes they confuse what they did in land law with the conveyancing, because conveyancing is so procedural that some students, if they can't get the distinction, then they will fail that particular unit. But what we've seen in the last 3 or 4 sittings is that there's been great improvements in commercial transactions and conveyancing. And the best way to approach it is to look at the current, the last 3 or 4 papers and see how the setting has evolved in those particular papers. That at least will maybe helps a candidate to see what is it that is expected in those particular papers. Now, currently we have a new challenge in 105. ATP 105 is professional ethics, a paper that has historically been performed extremely very well. But currently, students are facing serious problems in professional ethics. And one of the issues with professional ethics has been that previously students have underestimated that paper and believed that the paper is very simple, the paper is very easy. Now, what we are finding is that majority of students are failing that paper, and that's also taking us back to the drawing board. One of the areas that we noticed is that you remember professional ethics applies across all the practice of law. You find professional ethics when you are a conveyancer. You will find professional ethics when you are a litigator. You will find professional ethics everywhere. Even when you are an in-house counsel, we still find professional ethics. So nowadays, if you find a question has been tweaked a little bit, for instance, instead of asking you ethical duties of a lawyer generally, and you're now being asked ethical duties of a conveyancer or a conveyancing lawyer, you find students actually might not be able to answer that particular question. So it's very important, even as you read, you look at the trends in setting nowadays, so that you can also adapt your answering style of questions to that particular, to how questions are set. And there's the issue of, there's also the issue of ATP 103, which is legal writing and drafting. And for a long period of time, we used to wonder why students do not perform very well in this paper, because the performance in this paper has always been average. And what we actually noticed also from what is coming out of the market is that students or candidates are unable actually to draft. And that's evidence that's coming from the market, that the students that we are giving the market are unable to draft. And that can actually go back to the issue of whether students have learned how to draft, whether be it pleadings, be it drafting legislation, policies and regulations is an area that you really need to concentrate on so much. Now, allow me also to just look at the oral and project examination. It's important for you to know that these two components of the examination are very important, because they will have an impact on your general, will have a general impact on the general performance. You can imagine the oral and project 40% of your final score. And you can imagine that if you perform poorly in those two elements, what will happen at the end of, and the statistics have shown that candidates who perform very well in these two components have a high, probability of passing exams. So you'll find, for instance, a student who've scored maybe 13 in orals and another maybe 12 in projects, you have 25. So you're actually looking for 25. And if you look at statistics of how students perform, you'll actually find that that student's likely to be on the borderline or likely to actually pass that particular exams. So it's very important that you pay attention to oral examination and the project examination. And just for purposes of emphasis, group participation is very important. Now, what we have seen as council is that we have had so many students who come to us that they have a missing project, and yet they know very well that they did not participate in the, in groups. So I know that KSL requires you to submit minutes of your, group participation, and also you ensure that you sign, at the end of it, or before you submit your project, ensure that you have signed. Because if that is missing, then you'll have a missing component, and you'll be required to retake that component with the Kenya School of Law. Because another thing that we have seen is that some students will miss one component. Like, for instance, a student will miss oral exams. You come sit for that exam, then you will have a missing. When you have a missing, you find that students want to register now to sit for that paper as a receipt. Now, that's not allowed. What a student is supposed to do is to go regularize with the Kenya School of Law, ensure that you have that component of the examination, and then come back and you get your other marks. And if you fail, then you can receipt that particular paper or remark it. For us, a candidate, you are allowed to sit or to register for examination in either series, be it in April or in November. And nothing actually forces a candidate to register all the 9 units, because sometimes, because of funds, a candidate may be ready, or due to preparation, a candidate may be ready to only sit for 2 or 3 or 5 units, and that is also allowed in this case. Now, another thing is the issue of examination administration. I believe by now you have checked your student guide, and the examinations will commence on the 13th of November, which will be on a Thursday, and run through to 25th of November. And also the timetable, we have already shared the timetable for that examination. Our examination run on a daily basis, but we have breaks. Our breaks are weekends actually. So we'll have Thursday, Friday, then we have that weekend, then we have the entire week that follows a weekend, then 2 days, then we complete our exams. Apart from that, council will be communicating the venues and the examination cards after registration. The other thing maybe just to emphasize is I think I had mentioned the issue of marking and moderation. Once you have sat for the papers, you have followed all the instructions. Those papers are normally subjected to a panel of markers. It's important to note, because we have had some students complain that, oh, council does not mark the papers. We've had complaints, oh, council have a fixed number of candidates that have to pass. Those things do not exist. Once we have administered the exams, these papers are presented to markers. Now, it's important to note that the method that we use currently for marking is the conveyor belt marking, where us to mark. So what happens is that in a group, for instance, of markers, in, let me say, ATP 105 or ATP 101 or ATP 100, we'll have 3, 4, 5 markers together with a team lead group. Now, for a conveyor belt kind of marking, what happens is that every marker marks a question. You are not allowed to mark the entire script, so that if we have 4 markers, there's a way the markers will arrange so that each person at least marks that particular script. So if we have 5, we'll have one marking question 1, another one question 2, 3, like that. So that we spread the risk. If I'm a generous marker, I spread my generosity in the entire script, that I mark for the candidates. If I'm a strict marker, I also do the same to all the candidates. So for purposes of standardization, that's the kind of marking that we adopt. But before that, markers are called upon to harmonize the marking schemes. Now, remember that setters have their own marking schemes. That marking schemes by setters has been moderated by quality assurance officers. Then it has been worked on also by the council examination directorate. Then the markers work on it all, but they come up with their own. Then we give them the setters marking scheme. They harmonize and come up with one marking scheme. So the marking scheme that we have is a complete marking scheme that has all possible answers and has been addressed by different kinds of people: setters, moderators of questions, and moderation of questions is actually by a panel of 3 to 4 people. And some of these people include very distinguished people in academia, in the judiciary, in private practice, in government. So we benefit from all those kinds of people. Then apart from that, once the script has been marked, the work of the work of a team leader is to check for consistency in marking. The scripts are also taken through an external moderator who is supposed to do a sample, to sample some of those scripts and see whether they were properly marked. So the work of a moderator here is not to moderate, it's not to do what universities do, whether to add marks or no. No, they mark the scripts independently, and then they write a report whether the scripts were properly marked or not properly marked. Then later on, once we have released the marks, there's the remark, and I had actually mentioned something on remarks. But we'll be having another session, maybe just before exams, where we can go into this in details, and maybe also where we'll invite some of the examiners, previous examiners, to take us through some of these things. Previous examiners, in this case, either a marker or a setter, just to try and at least borrow from their minds what is it that they normally require when they are marking or when they are setting. Lastly, I think I can look at one more thing, then I'll hand over the program to Mr. Chirchir. Some of the reasons why that we've noted why students fail, and some of these are coming out from the markers reports, from the remarkers reports, and from the moderators report. One that is a very serious one is the fact that most students misunderstand questions, or most students come in, they set their own question, they answer their own question, and some of them even answer their own questions. They set their own question, answer it, but still fail their own question. And that does not mean that we mark your question and award you marks for your question. No, we still stick to the marking scheme. The other students, for instance, there are other students who write everything on a topic. Let me give you an example. A question, for instance, let me say a question in a commercial transaction, and that question, for instance, is asking something on bankruptcy, and you decide to write anything you can remember on bankruptcy, with hopes that the marker will read through and pick what is right and leave what is wrong. In that case, then you are not answering the question. The student should answer the question. So you're supposed to first understand what the question is asking, and number 2, answer that question, address that question. The most important thing is identify those issues that you're supposed to analyze, and analyze those particular issues. It's important to note that being a practical paper, being a clinical examination, a student is supposed to be looking at the higher levels. In this particular case, we have moved past just, recalling. We have moved past, just remembering and identifying. we have moved now to higher levels where your student is required to create, a student is required to apply knowledge, yeah, and come up with something. For instance, when it comes to drafting pleadings, there's something that a student is supposed to do. So for instance, some students, what we have seen, for instance, to assume, for instance, been asked draft the pleading, what we have seen is a situation where a student will identify the wrong pleading and go on and draft that particular pleading and expect to get marks for that. In that case, you may not be able to get. Then there's the issue of quick analysis of IRAC. And in this particular case, you'll find a student who will say these are the issues. Then he will also go down, right, relevant, the rule. Then on analysis, we will only have one line on analysis. Now, markers actually concentrate so much on the analysis part because that is what earns you the marks. Regurgitating the issues and the rule does not give you the relevant marks that you require if you are not applying. So it's important that you concentrate so much on the analysis because that's what gives you the marks that is needed. Then there's the issue of poor preparation that we have seen in conveyancing and commercial, but I believe that with proper, we are likely to do much better. Then there's the issue of time management where a student ends up answering only 3 questions instead of answering 5. That is also likely to affect your performance. And lastly, the issue of cramming and failing to address the practical issues in the question. And lastly, we have this is just advice that try as much as possible to write legibly and also to be coherent in your answers. So I think I'll stop there. And if there's any question, I think we can address them at the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zadok, for your presentation. Without much ado, let me now welcome Madam Leah Masharia to preside over the Q&A. So kindly, Madam Masharia.
Good afternoon, candidates. I will address the following questions that have been asked on the chat. Sunshine, you're asking whether the passport biodata page or the passport or the waiting card can be used. Yes, it can be used. In fact, in the morning, I bumped into your application and I think you're good to go. That is, if you do not have the ID, yes, a passport can be used. Odhiambo, sorry, Ms. Karemi, you asked about extension for registration. This was talked to earlier on by our director, Dr. Odhiambo. Council will communicate. That is the position at the moment. John Jaroge, you asked about rejections. If something hasn't been, if a document hasn't been placed on the portal in the right way. Yes, what we normally do once it gets to our end, we will sort of partially reject it so that you can be able to receive it on your end and you regularize that particular issue and then you submit. So at this moment, if you have submitted your application, this is the good time to be near your emails. Just be checking your emails because we are, approving on a rolling basis. So please check your emails. Joy Mwachengo, the portal is giving an error. If it's giving an error, please write to support@cle.or.ke. The ICT team and also the examination team will be able to assist you, and you'll be able to complete registration in time. There's one last question by Peter. The deadline is fast approaching and help hasn't disbursed. I don't know whether Duncan Nalwenge is here to respond to this. Duncan? Duncan, are you here? Okay. Peter, I want to assure you that Nalwenge is here. Nalwenge is on mute. ICT, kindly unmute Nalwenge. ICT? Okay, I can respond to this. Peter, I want to assure you that Council of Legal Education and Help, we are in communication, and so you need not to worry on your registration. All you just need to do is make sure you have applied before the deadline and leave the rest to us. I think that is it. I have addressed all the questions that have been that are on the chat, and so I submit.
I think those are all the questions as presented on the chat. And again, should there be any other burning issue which any candidate would wish to be addressed, kindly reach out to us through the email, which is posted support@cle.or.ke. Then your issue will be responded to and actioned accordingly. So at this juncture, I think we've come to the end. Let me call upon the class president of this cohort to move a vote of thanks.
ICT, kindly unmute Ouya Samuel. We cannot be able to unmute on our end. Yes, Ouya Samuel. ICT is working on unmuting you.
Okay, thank you. Am I audible now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Council for Legal Education, we are very grateful for this particular opportunity to engage us on the issues of exam registration and how the conduct of the same is undertaken. So we are very grateful I know quite a number of students were unable to join, but I know those were system issues. And I hope, I'm not sure if this meeting was, I see it was recorded. Perhaps the platform for reference of the same can be provided. If it's, you'll send it to Kenya School of Law to post it on the learning, or if you'll post it on a particular website for that students are able to see, I will be much grateful for that. And we are looking forward to the bar exams. I know a lot has been said about the technicalities of the same, but I know you've assured us of whatever we need to do, and hopefully we all finish the exam strong and graduate to the next level. So we are very grateful for this particular opportunity. At this point, I don't have much to say, and thank you very much. We'll always reach out whenever there is any inquiry that we have not or we want to seek from you. So thank you very much, Council for Legal Education, Director Examination, and the team. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Kowia Samuel, the Students Governing Council President, for your vote of thanks. At this point in time, I would want to thank each one of us for having taken the moment or the opportunity to enable us interact and engage for this particular session. Ours should be an ongoing engagement because we, as issues arise or as need be, there should be an open forum for us to engage. And I want to thank Mr. Makowia, who has always been engaging. Now, in regard to the issue of the deadline, just like I indicated at the beginning, Council is going to get back to us, to you people, in regard to the application. So at this point in time, thank you. I wish to thank each one of you, and also to take this opportunity to declare that this session stands adjourned, and we will be able to engage in another subsequent, interact at another subsequent engagement, most probably around or end of October or early November, just before your exams. I wish you well, candidates, as you prepare for your final exams and as you journey in this, in your preparation towards admission as advocates of the High Court of Kenya. I wish you well, and have a pleasant afternoon, colleagues. Thank you so much. Good afternoon.